and welcome to another Biz Buzz segment here on the Blank Page to Bestseller podcast. As always, I am joined this week by Colleen and KZ. And on this week's Biz Buzz segment, we are talking about a few different areas that all come together. So, number one, what's the big craze that everyone's talking about right now? AI. What is our main focus? Working with authors. And really, we're trying to marry those two together because we are talking about a new database that has been created that focuses in on a lawsuit that was that Meta was a part of, where different authors and different advocates came together to sue Meta because of the way they were training their AI. And then we're also going to talk about, and the reason that we're talking about that is because I was reading about this first from the Authors Guild. And so we wanted to kind of share a little bit about what the Authors Guild is, why we think it is a good resource for authors. And so we're kind of using this lawsuit as a bit of an overarching story to help us share why we like the Authors Guild. So first of all, I know we talked about a lot there in that introduction. So let me start with this. Colleen, KZ, either one of you, have you guys used or been or used the Authors Guild or been a part of the Authors Guild in the past?
I have not, but I'm at looking at it and
Mhm.
finding out more about it. So I have not.
I have been, Peter. I've been a member for many years. I'm not currently, I think I'm not currently a member, but I think it's mostly through oversight. But I have been a member on and off for many years. And I've always gone there as a resource. It's actually a really good, it's a reliable resource. That's what I want to call it. It's one
Mhm.
that I trust. And that
Mhm.
is sometimes hard to find.
No, I definitely agree with that. The trust is definitely there with the Authors Guild. It's actually really interesting. I learned about the Authors Guild through a separate podcast that had nothing to do with writing or being an author or publishing or anything like that. And I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. I should go check them out. And that was probably 2 or 3 years ago now at this point, and I have followed the Authors Guild pretty much since then, and I think it is a great resource. KZ, I think we were talking about this when we were doing some show prep last week, but I believe you were mentioning that the Authors Guild has like a resource page where you can kind of check on some like publishing scams and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes, as far as I know, they still have that, and that's one of the first places I look when I'm checking. We do work for all types of all writers and authors at all levels of publication, and so we often get people who come to us who have gone somewhere else, and they'll say, "Well, what do you know about this company?" or "What do you know about this company?" Or, these people sounded really good, but I've got a bad feeling. And that's one of the places I go to check that out. If there's a bad actor in the field, generally the Authors Guild they'll appear on their list somewhere. So, and there are
Yeah.
other resources too, but that's one of my favorites.
No, yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. I think I know especially me and Colleen over the past few years have definitely encountered some authors that we've worked with who are like, man, I thought this was such a good idea, but then dot
Yeah,
dot dot.
yeah.
And there's definitely a need in the industry still for some sort of resource like the Authors Guild's providing, where you can go and check if this place is legit or not, because there is definitely, I mean, as you know, with pretty much any industry, with any boom, there are definitely bad actors that come out of a giant boom, and we've definitely seen a boom in publishing since I mean, the last 10, 15 years especially.
Yep, absolutely. Which is a great thing for all of us.
It
So,
is. I think in the end, it definitely growth is good, but you definitely have to be be on the lookout for some of those people who are maybe doing it with some unscrupulous motives.
yeah, integrity is important. I know Colleen is that's one of her a topic that she speaks on frequently, but and we agree, we're in agreement on it.
Mhm.
It's very important that we are transparent in the services we offer and what we can and can't do. And that's really important to all of us at the Author's Voice. So I cannot imagine working with anyone who
Mhm.
didn't feel that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. One other area of the Authors Guild that I do want to highlight, and I think this is a very important part of the industry that doesn't always get talked about. But the big area, actually the area that I was first introduced to the Authors Guild was through some of their legal resources. So I know no one loves talking about contracts, no one loves talking about legalese and things like that, and especially if you're a first time author, or maybe an independent author who is looking to have a contract with some sort of publisher or whatever that may be. Things can get a little bit confusing, and the Authors Guild does have probably one of the better legal resources that I've come across, at least in the publishing world. So I definitely want to shout that out because I do think that is an important part of um, of the industry that doesn't always get highlighted. Have either of you looked at any of that on the Authors Guild?
Not recently, but definitely I've looked at it, Colleen.
I have not looked at that. I'm going to jump in here at some point and talk about. I just came across some books that are writing about the ethics of AI and using it in
Mm,
writing. So when we get that, or I'd like to chat about
mm.
that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I guess that does lead us into then the story, the big story, the big news, I guess, of what's going on. So like I said, the reason that I wanted to talk about the Authors Guild was because I have learned, and I think the industry as a whole has learned, there was give you a backstory as quickly as I can, and I know I'm probably going to leave out a few of the specifics, but I will provide some links down in the show notes for everyone, so we can read through the links on our own. But in March, I came across an article from the Authors Guild, which talked about here's the headline: Meta's massive AI training book heist. What authors need to know. So, the long story short, is that Meta was accused of training their AI using something called the LibGen database. Um, this actually was first reported by, I do want to give them credit, The Atlantic. I will also put their uh, the link to the database that they created, which lets authors search to see if their book has been included in this LibGen data set. So, without getting into the too deeps of the specifics of everything, basically what was happening is Meta was training their AI off of books and articles and journals and things like that, which was found on LibGen. KZ, I know you have a few books out there. Had you heard of LibGen or what was going on with this before any of the reporting was coming out?
I'm not sure. Well, I probably heard about it. Not probably. I did. I heard about it at about the same time you did. It was early March, maybe even in February. I'm not sure. The writers in my authors group were talking about it, and it was the Atlantic that we first saw the article in as well. So that's when we first started talking about it, and with the link and following up. You're going to talk more about this, so I don't want to get into specifics. But the one thing I will say is that yes, some of my books are included in that database, and no one ever asked me about it. Uh,
Mhm,
so, so yes, if you are a writer out there and you're not sure, pay attention. Grab the link when
mm,
Peter sends it to you, because you may find that some of your books are included. I don't believe any of the authors that I spoke to about this have more than one or two of their books included. So it's not that they're going out and stealing, and I don't want to use the word stealing because it's not truly, that's not the intent, I know. But it's not that they're not adding all of an author's backlist into this database, but they are taking enough books to get the feel of the author, if you
mhm,
will, the voice, the brand.
mhm.
Can I ask you something, Candy, real quick? And maybe I don't understand what you're saying, but when you say they're not stealing, I don't understand that because they are. I mean,
They're not stealing it as much as they're not stealing. They're not taking it to resell it, to use it in any other way. It's used for training. So no one can go into that library database and export the book.
Mm.
Okay.
I'm going to real quick push back on that because that's actually what the site was originally intended for.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
well,
sure.
that could very well be, Peter. I'm not going to
Yeah.
argue with you.
No, yeah. So I guess that's actually that leads us to a good let me go take one step further back and just say what is libgen? So libgen is the abbreviation people in the world use. It's called Library Genesis. And what it is, this is according to Wikipedia, it's a shadow library for project. It's a shadow library for file sharing, and it originally started with like journals, articles, like scholarly articles, academic articles, things like that, and then also just like books and things. So it was a place for people to go and access books, articles, journals, things like that um, without paying for them. There's a whole other conversation that can go into a lot of that. But basically, what they were doing is they were taking the paid articles, paid books, paid things like that, and putting them in this database for free, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it was originally intended for, and then because this database was publicly available, I guess, or at least available to the smart people, um, that it was able to use it to train their AI that way. Does that make sense to you guys, both of you?
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not clear exactly I know I've never been able to download a book from there, so
Hmm.
maybe there is a way that I'm not aware of it, but I don't like the idea regardless, because they should have asked me if they wanted my book.
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of this is coming, or a lot of the um, public vitriol, I guess. The authors are rightfully not happy that their books have been found in places where they've never been asked to put them, or never been compensated for their work, or never been asked if they're allowed to use it and things like that. So I definitely think that's one of the big issues of especially the libgen side of this article, or of what's going on. Um, then the other thing I do want to point out then is that um, the reason that has been big is because and not the reason it's been big. One of the reasons that there has been some um, another storyline to this basically is that it's really hard to get to libgen and shut it down because it is run in, you know how there's these, I don't want to say dark web areas, but it's basically hard to access, hard to track down who actually owns it, who actually runs it. And so there have been instances where it has been shut down and then brought back up, and then shut down and brought back up. And it's kind of funny, when I was searching this, I just searched libgen in Google, and one of the top searches is libgen down? So
Interesting.
yeah. So that's definitely another part of it. It's hard to track down who does this, who owns it, who runs it, things like that. So that's basically what libgen is. Um, then it goes into the next step, which is the Meta using them for their training their AI.
Yeah,
Um,
and Peter, can I say one thing about that? And I think Colleen wanted to say
yeah,
something too. I
yeah,
just want
that's
to give an overview on this, and that I think is important to recognize. What LibGen does is wrong.
mhm,
And the only I'm saying but because there's a not a caveat, but there is an additional factor in this, and that is that the internet itself, the dark web, the entire dark web,
mm,
anything that is digital is available that way. I mean,
mhm,
that simply is the nature of the web. It's not right, but it's the dark side of what we use every day.
mhm,
And it is not used by the majority of users have no idea how to access the dark web.
mhm,
I don't know how to access it. I don't want to. I mean,
mhm,
I've been around a long time with the internet, and in the early days, I got into a few of those places, and I left. I didn't like it. I didn't like the people there. I didn't like
mhm,
the attitudes. It just wasn't someplace I wanted to stay.
mhm.
And now I wouldn't even know how to get to it. But unless I probably could. I'd never find it. It would drive me crazy.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
yeah. So I think that I think there are a lot of questions around this, and one's in my mind is what the heck was wrong with Meta in the first place to think that they should use that?
Mhm,
Oh, Colleen, I can see you there. You're waving your arms.
mhm,
Is
That's what I said to Peter today when we were talking about this. And I am stubborn, I am bullheaded, but I'm telling you what, if any of us went into Meta or these other companies that are doing this, we would be sued and bankrupt. But they
mhm,
can go in and they can do it and not even think anything about it. And it
mhm,
ticks me off to no end because
mhm,
they have no right to do it.
mhm. Well,
yeah.
here's the thing. They can't do it, but they do it anyways because they think they can get away with it.
And that's what I said too.
Yeah.
Also,
Mm,
I said, with progression, with moving things forward and technology or whatever it is, there's good. But then when
Mm,
people take it to the wrong side of doing things just
mhm,
to make a buck or just to whatever, not in the good direction, like Candy said,
mhm,
it's terrible. It,
yeah.
mhm,
and I, now that I am,
Well, that's our integrity. That's our integrity wheel spinning in place.
mhm,
So we don't like these things because we know they're wrong.
mhm,
But we also have to deal with them, and that's why
mhm,
we're talking about it today. Is this is a reality for authors today?
mhm,
It's a reality for anyone who uses the internet, and it's not going away. That's all I
mhm,
can say. So we
and
we
one
do.
thing, oh, sorry, one thing we want to remind people of, and we're not going to go into that today, copyright your information.
mhm,
Copyright your information.
Yes, always. If you're a writer of anything, copyright
yeah,
it. Yep.
mhm. Yes. That is very important because that's I mean one of the ways that you can protect yourself if things like this happen. We don't really know exactly what the outcome of some of these lawsuits are going to be, but if you have a copyright, especially a copyright that is filed with the appropriate authorities, you can provide yourself um, a lot of like backing if
Security.
some security if things were to go wrong, and there are things in the future, who knows what could go wrong. So yes, definitely copyright your work, and not just don't just expect that putting the little C in the circle on your copyright page means you're actually copywriting your book. I mean, yeah. But this kind of also, I want to bring back what you said earlier, Colleen. You were mentioning some books on AI ethics. Is that is that correct?
Yeah, I just came across some stuff. I was looking and Googling artificial and using ethics in artificial intelligence, or tell me about it. And
Hmm.
there are 5 books out there that came up very quickly, and that
Hmm.
might be another great conversation we could have
Hmm.
someday about it's called the Atlas of AI, the ethical algorithm of AI, figuring out how people can use it ethically. And that's the whole point, being
Hmm.
ethical if you're going to use it. I mean,
Mhm.
that might not be
Absolutely.
the whole point of these books, but it's talking about how people can, they're giving information about how to do it ethically or what it takes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's very, very important. In order to using AI, AI is a tool like
Mhm.
any other tool, and it has to be used ethically, or you don't get the results you expect,
Mhm.
and the readers and the buyers of the product or the service don't get their result either.
Mhm.
Yeah, one in this article, somebody said there's also been a growth in the companies producing AI, saying that they're doing quote ethics. We have to be careful about what the word quote ethics actually means. Sometimes it just means quote, don't worry, we've got a board who's looking at this, end quote.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Listeners, I'll put a link to that article as well down in the show notes. We'll have lots of links in these links to articles in this episode because I think it's definitely a topic that is pertinent. It's very top of mind. It is very important as well because as authors, we need to know and we want to know what's actually going on with our books. Are people using it in unscrupulous ways? Are people doing things to potentially harm our future with the way they're using the AI and things like that? I like yeah, Colleen.
No, I just wanted to say, like we were talking about using it ethically, that type of thing. In this article, it also says um, one of the things encouraging us or people is that AI may act in ways to dehumanize us. It can actually do the opposite. It can make us really look closely at what it is to be a human and how we want to live.
Mm,
I think that's
Good.
what we're trying to say.
That's
mhm,
a good point. I like that.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Peter, didn't mean to take you off track
Yeah,
because I know
I'm
you want to
sorry.
get into the other part of it, but this was, I think it was a good detour.
No, definitely. I think this is it's really what I was hoping to talk a little bit about too is, we have this undercurrent of I don't know if you two are, super in tune. I'm sure you guys are, but it seems like there's a new AI article out every 10 every day. 15 every day. And it's really difficult because you don't quite know who to trust when it comes to the AI companies yet, ethically, if that makes sense. There's lots of news from everyone, and it's hard to kind of parse through everything. So it's definitely something that we want authors to be aware of. It's something that we want authors to um, try to better understand, just so that there is a bit of a common understanding on what AI means for publishing. I know we've talked about this in the past before. There's different types of AI, different ways to use AI. Obviously, none of us are computer scientists. If we were, we wouldn't be doing this, and we'd be making a whole lot more money. But there is enough out there that we can, at least as authors, as publishing professionals, as people in the industry, we can at least give ourselves some baseline understanding of what this technology is, and I think especially what this technology isn't, because that's as important. That's very important too.
Is important, and it's also important to recognize that the AI is a general term, and
Hmm.
it is a broad term, and it is woefully misunderstood and misused and used appropriately. There's
Hmm.
such that's why there's so much written about it, is
Hmm.
because there are advances every day in AI, but there are also reverses.
Hmm.
There are people out there who are just using AI because it's in the news, but they don't
Hmm.
really understand what they're using.
Hmm.
They bought it somewhere, and
Hmm.
now they've labeled it with their label and introducing you to something new they're doing, but they're not really. They're just
Hmm.
reusing what somebody else created for them, which is fine. They paid for it. That's assuming
Hmm.
they paid for it.
Right.
There is that too.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and you're right, that's a subject for another day. There are many avenues that we will be exploring concerning AI as these episodes go on, I'm sure.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. If you, as the listener, have any interest in I mean, whether it be just to learn more about it, which I think everyone should want to learn a little bit more about it, or if you really want to go specific on things, if you just search artificial intelligence, if you search I mean, there are thousands upon thousands of pieces of writing out there about it, or podcasts or videos or whatever. Definitely take some time to kind of learn a little bit about it, because it is interesting in both the good and the bad ways, I think.
I
Um,
think
it,
so.
yeah.
But I think, Peter, yes, it's important that people go out and educate themselves. But you know what? It's really easy to quickly become overwhelmed. So when
Mhm.
you begin, before you get overwhelmed, come back here and ask us your questions.
Yeah. Yep.
We'll do the research for you
Yeah.
and let you know what we find out.
Yeah. I think that we've kind of covered a little bit of everything in this episode. I know it seems like we've gone from place to place, but I do think it all kind of connects. So, first of all, let's do a quick little recap. Definitely, if you are an author, or if you are in the publishing industry, check out the Authors Guild, follow them. They've got some great information, great resources. They're a great place for authors to learn more about the industry and what's going on. Second, if you are an author and have your book out, check down in the links below, because I will have a link to that Atlantic article where they were talking about the database of that Meta used for the training their AI. And then third, definitely ask us any questions about the AI world. We'll do our best to answer them in any future episode. But like Colleen has that article, I'll also link down in the bottom, which she was talking about earlier, just to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of maybe some AI ethics and things like that. Um, before we wrap it up, KZ, anything that I've missed, or anything that you think we need to talk a little bit more about?
Did you want to talk any more about Meta, about the lawsuit, or just let that go?
As much as I want to talk about that, um, I'm not sure how in depth. Is there something that you think we've missed on that side of things?
I don't think so. I think that we have to wait on this.
Yeah.
I think this is a waiting game. I think
Hmm.
we've had the opportunity here to introduce the subject and to encourage writers to go out and begin to educate themselves on what's going on here and
Hmm.
decide if it's important to them as a writer. I
Hmm.
believe it should be important to them as a person, but that's, my
Hmm.
opinion. So I don't think we've missed anything, Peter. Just want to make sure you didn't miss that if you found something in your mind that you wanted to cover.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I will clarify on that is this information came out because of a class action lawsuit against Meta, and there's also some other people who are part of that um, class action lawsuit, and it came out because this information was found during the like discovery portion of the lawsuit. So there is. There's not necessarily a verdict yet, but there's discovery going on. They're trying to work through this, and you'll learn more about that in the Authors Guild article, which I have linked down below. You'll see some big names part as a part of this. They mention like John Grisham, Jodi Picoult, David Baldacci. Big name authors are a part of this to try to figure out what's going on, or are part of the database and everything. So definitely take a look at it. Definitely try to educate yourself just a little bit more about it, so you can be aware of what's going on.
Gee, I feel important all of a sudden.
It's not every day that our names show up on lists of some of those big name best-selling authors, but most of the time it's good when your name does, and sometimes like today it can feel a little bit not
Yeah.
necessarily the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colleen, anything that we have not talked about or you think we need to kind of uh, cover before we end up the episode or the
I think we
segment?
I think we've carried covered a big overview of it, a little more in depth probably than we were going to go. But I think staying on top of Meta and the other places for next time would be a great idea,
Mhm.
like where the actual lawsuits are going, what they found out, that type of thing. But I think it was great.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we end, then let me just close with this. Number one, thank you for listening to the episode wherever you're listening to the podcast. It's great. If you do have any questions, like KZ mentioned earlier, please send us a message. Put it down in the comments wherever you're listening to this. Let people or let us know what those questions are, and we'd be happy to talk about them more in the future. If you haven't yet already, please be sure to subscribe to the show. The show comes out on Tuesday mornings here in Eastern Standard Time. So, they're out nice and early for you to begin your day with. And if you are a subscriber, one, thank you. But two, also check us out on YouTube because all of the segments here are on YouTube as well. And we are definitely looking to grow our YouTube channel just a bit. So if you know the great episodes that we put out, you can find them all on YouTube. Please be sure to go give us a subscribe over there, like the videos, leave us a comment over there too. We'd be happy to, talk with you on YouTube as well. So you can also find the Biz Buzz segments on Tuesday when the episode comes out on YouTube. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up for the day, and we'll be back next week with another Biz Buzz segment.